The restaurant was bustling with late-morning sunlight pouring through the tall glass windows. But everything froze when Aaron Navarro, a young single dad in a faded uniform, stood trembling before his manager. His hands were still dusted with flour from the pancakes he had quietly served moments earlier to a little boy who had wandered in with wide, frightened eyes. That child, unknown to everyone except the trembling staff, was the mute son of Billionaire CEO Soraya Vale, and she stood only a few steps away, watching the scene unfold as the manager's voice thundered across the dining room, telling Aaron he was fired for giving away free food. Before anyone could blink, Soraya's gaze sharpened, her heels clicked against the marble floors, and she stepped forward with a statement that silenced the entire restaurant. "Are you finished?" she said, her voice calm but sharp enough to cut glass. "Before we continue, if you believe kindness deserves second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Everyday Tales. Your support helps these emotional stories reach more hearts." Soraya had arrived quietly that day, trying to keep her identity hidden for the sake of her son. Eli, only 5 years old, hadn't spoken a single word since the tragedy that took his father. He barely ate, barely connected, until today, when his tiny shaking hand had tugged at Aaron's apron as if the man were a familiar refuge. Aaron had not hesitated. Without asking for payment, without judgment, had simply knelt down and served Eli warm food with a soft smile. It had been the first time anyone had seen the child eat willingly in months. But now Aaron stood frozen, his eyes burning with humiliation as he clutched his apron to his chest. He was a single father, too, raising his little daughter Mara, and this job was the only thing keeping their lives together. He couldn't lose it. Not now, not when rent was due, not when Mara needed school books he could barely afford. Yet the manager, a man named Kellen, sneered as if firing him was a pleasure. Aaron bowed his head and whispered apologies to no one in particular. His chest felt tight, his breath uneven. He thought of Mara waiting at home with her hand-drawn "Good luck at work, Daddy" note taped to the fridge. He thought of how many times life had knocked him down, and as his world tilted again, he didn't even see Soraya step closer, only felt a soft, unexpected shadow fall beside him. Soraya stood straight, calm, and devastatingly controlled. The sunlight behind her gave her an almost ethereal outline. She placed a gentle hand on Ella's shoulder, who was leaning against her leg, still clutching a crumpled napkin Aaron had folded into a little bird for him. She turned to Kellen and spoke in a tone that froze him in place. "I just watched this man do what none of you could," she said. "He made my son feel safe." Kellen blinked rapidly, color draining from his face as he finally recognized her. A billionaire, a CEO, a woman with enough power to bury the entire restaurant with a single email. Aaron tried to speak, tried to defend himself, but his voice shook. Soraya raised a hand gently, signaling he didn't need to explain anything, not to her. She knelt down to Aaron's level, surprising every single person standing there. Her voice softened as she said, "You gave food to my son because you saw a child in need, not a price tag. That matters." Aaron swallowed hard. He didn't know what to say. He had spent so long fighting to survive that simple praise felt foreign. Soraya stood again and addressed the entire restaurant with a sharpness that echoed off the walls. "I am acquiring this chain next month," she said, "and let me make something clear. Any establishment that punishes kindness has no place in my company." Kellen stumbled, sputtering excuses. She didn't even glance at him. She turned back to Aaron, her expression softening again, but her eyes holding something deeper: respect, empathy, recognition. Eli reached for Aaron's hand just then, and the tiny gesture broke something open in the billionaire's heart. "Mr. Navarro," she said gently, "I would like to offer you a new job. One with a salary that doesn't force you to choose between feeding your child and yourself. Would you consider working for me?" Aaron's breath caught. He looked down at Eli, who was holding on to him as though he were an anchor in a storm. Then he thought of Mara, her quiet dreams, her little drawings taped to their tiny apartment walls. He didn't trust his voice, so he simply nodded. Soraya smiled, a rare, warm smile that melted the tension in the room. "Good," she said, "because kindness like yours shouldn't be punished. It should be protected." The next few weeks unfolded like scenes from a film Irene never believed he would star in. He was given a new position at Soraya's corporate headquarters, not as a server, not as a low-wage helper, but as a community outreach coordinator, helping design programs for families like his, like Eli, like so many others who needed compassion more than charity. Irene arrived at his new office on the first day with Mara by his side, her tiny backpack bouncing, her eyes wide with excitement. Eli waited in the lobby with Soraya, and when he saw Aaron, he ran up and hugged him. For the first time in months, Soraya saw her son smile, really smile. It took time, gentle moments, and patience, but one quiet afternoon, while Aaron was helping Eli draw shapes on a whiteboard, the boy looked up, opened his mouth, and whispered a single word. "Safe." Soraya broke down in tears. She stepped out of the room, leaning against the wall, covering her mouth as emotion shook her entire body. After all the specialists, all the therapies, all the nights she held him hoping he'd speak again, it was Aaron's kindness that had unlocked her son's voice. Standing there, overwhelmed, she realized something else too. She hadn't just saved Aaron's future, he had mended hers. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Everyday Tales. Your support helps us create more stories that remind the world of compassion. Special request: comment kindness wins if you believe even small actions can change someone's life. And so, in the golden glow of an ordinary day, 2 single parents and 2 brave children found a new beginning, not in wealth or power, but in the simple, extraordinary act of kindness.